Hello, and welcome to another episode of Talking Screeps. Today, I'm joined by Marvin, who is a content creator. He is also the author of an open source bot called The International. I've personally benefited from his video that was an intro to base planning, but he also has lots of other interesting videos. For example, Tigger taking out a T5 stronghold was another one I found personally quite interesting. So, Marvin, thank you very much for being here.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to be here.
So first of all, let's just start with some general questions, if that's okay. So, what got you interested in Screeps? Like, why did you pick up Screeps?
Yeah, so it was back in 2018, so I must have been like 14 or 15 then. And I knew very little programming. I'd done a little bit of web development stuff, so HTML, some CSS, but I had not touched JavaScript in any real sense. And Screeps seemed, one, a very interesting way to learn that, and two, just fun. I liked video games. I was a young kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out to be an incredibly effective way to learn not just JavaScript itself, but the thought processes that you need to be a decent programmer, or maybe even a good programmer if you're the likes of Tigger, who's quite a bit more accomplished. But for many, I think Screeps has been helpful in that regard, not just to me.
Wow, so you've actually been playing for about 8 years then, right? That's a long time.
Yeah, I guess it would be. I've played intermittently. So in 2018, I think I stopped, and then I tried again in 2019, and then I think around then is when I played for maybe 2 or 3 years straight, and that was when I was more serious about programming. And then the last 2 years, I've definitely stepped away from Screeps World, done a little bit of Arena here and there, but my focus has largely been on other projects.
Cool. So did Screeps affect sort of your professional direction at all? Like, did you end up going into programming? I know you said you was in high school. You mentioned, sorry, that when you started, right?
Yeah, I think it would have been, definitely would have been high school, grade 8 or 9. And I did a few other programming courses then,
Mm-hmm.
and I went on to do comp sci in university. So I'm now in year 3 of that, and I'm currently working at a web development company, creating an Electron app. So it very much did influence where my future went.
That's pretty cool. I like to ask people what their professional background is normally so people can see, like, if their professional background helped them play Screeps. But it's interesting that it's the other way around for you, where Screeps
Yeah,
then went on to affect your professional background. It's pretty cool. Um,
absolutely.
so I just want to ask next probably about your open source bot you've developed called the International. And I just want to ask first of all, what motivated the theme behind the bot?
When I looked at Screeps and when I got my brain around it a little bit, it seemed very much like a centralized system.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you've got one source code that controls all of your creeps and what they do and what they think, if you want to personify them a bit. And the communist centralized everything aesthetic kind of worked for that. And young teenager, some political views that were maybe more extreme than they should have been. And so, it was fun to mess around with that.
Fair enough. What would you say are some interesting features of your bot, International?
Yeah. So one thing you definitely can't say about the International is it's not the best bot, but it is the best bot at some things. So I
Mm-hmm.
was very hyper focused on a few parts of the game that I found most interesting, and some of that was hauling logistics. So there's some jokes about bread lines in the past about how so many small haulers, so one move part haulers, would move around and get stuck on each other. And after a lot of effort, a lot of refactoring, a lot of trial and error, I got those bread lines to become, instead of stationary and broken, through a better traffic management system and relaying, to be a quite efficient way of transporting lots of energy really efficiently. If you don't know, relaying is handing off energy between creeps as they move in opposite directions.
Mm-hmm.
And so it ends up being more efficient than just normal hauling if you do it in the right way. And so there's niche things like that, including having very small haulers if you have the throughput for it, to make logistics just way more efficient than they otherwise would be, maybe 25, 30, 40% more efficient if
Oh,
you really maximize it.
and when you say
And
more
so I think in
efficient,
the end of the day, the logistics is rivals at the very least, the best players in the game.
So when you say more efficient, do you just mean it's faster to move resources, or it ends up costing less to move those resources as opposed to using, for example, just bigger haulers?
Yeah. So you're doing more intents per tick, which means you're using more CPU,
Mhm.
but over the long run, you're using the same amount of CPU to move the same amount of energy. So the benefit comes in from you're making more efficient use of those move and carry parts on your haulers. And the second benefit, of course, is the economic cost. So you need less haulers, you have more energy coming in, you're just more efficient in general.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. So one thing that we've noted about the International is that it can actually accept commands from you. So someone else running the bot can end up being subservient to your bot. Should that be
Yeah.
something people running it are concerned by?
Yeah, I think I say in the README, so people, if they read the README, are aware of that happening. The other thing is my bots no longer spawned in, so there's no one that can actually take advantage of that system. Although I have spawned in every now and then to kill off users who have been too aggressive, so I've done that 1 or 2 times. But it's certainly a lot of power. There was a lot more, I guess, anger or concern about it back when Moan, the creator of Overmind, created a similar system. Now they couldn't do any arbitrary code, so I can do any arbitrary function I want. I can kill them, I can make them send me resources, I can make them respawn in a certain location, I can have them flood someone else with resources or whatever else I want them to do. And if they deny that system, their bot breaks. But assimilation, which was Overmind's version, was a similar sort of concept. And the thing is, it's just to rival someone like Tiga and to take over lots of land, like you now see happening. I believe in Shard 1 it is, with Harabi and a few other players, and Kaljin, I know for sure. They're just much better in general in terms of having a bot that can do boosted quads, multiple boosted quads, taking over a room with immense CPU efficiency that Overmind or the International could never match. So, it really does matter how strong the actual bot is that's taking advantage of this system. And luckily, we have not seen that in the likes of Tiga or Harabi.
So how many people do you reckon are actually using the International right now, or have built their bot, like using it as a basis, for example?
Yeah, so I know maybe 8 people have actually taken advantage, have used the bot as a base to build something in terms of adding remote roads, which is a silly feature I never cared to get around to, or improving the combat, or making it much better for Shard 3 in terms of having less creeps and being more CPU efficient. So there's definitely been people using it as a base like that. And then there's been much more, which is what I liked, of people using it as a reference. So just people looking at, oh, how did I do this or that? Or some parts of it were written by other people, but most of it by me. How did the bot do this? Or the metric system, for example, so the way that we report statistics to our Grafana instance is pretty advanced and created by Panda Master. So looking at that as a reference for how do I implement my own version, I think has been a lot more of the use case for people.
Awesome. Oh, it's amazing that, you created this bot and then other people have then used it to help themselves make better bots. So it's a great contribution to the community. So yeah, thank you for that. So now I want to move on to the other useful thing you've done for the Screeps community, which is your content creation that you do. So, you've made quite a number of videos. Is there one video you're most proud of, would you say?
Yeah, I haven't made a video for maybe almost 3 years now, I think. But I had a few on the table I've wanted to add. But I've always been quite happy with the base planning video. I think I made that a few weeks after I understood distance transform and flood fill and mincut myself. And when I was learning them, I had talked with some people who would understand these concepts and had made their own versions. But there's no source of truth on this matter. Not even the wiki page had good enough information, I think, to actually understand these concepts. And so I wanted to be able to share that. So I made my own video, the base planning video, and I also updated the wiki to make sure people would have a good understanding of how these algorithms work, how they apply to Screeps, stuff like that.
And that was, like I said, that was the inspiration for my first base builder that I did. The whole temp stamp placing
Yeah.
for extensions, that kind of thing. Though I did do the walls in a slightly different way, but same sort of result.
Mhm.
What made you decide to start making Screeps videos? Like, what inspired you to do that?
Yeah, I think the same thing behind the base planning video. I wanted people to understand Screeps a bit better and to use it as an educational tool the same way I could. And so, one, building hype around the project, and two, just showing what you can do. The defensive challenges you have. I think my first video was with a friend where they were attacking me with their boosted duo, and just showing how one might start to defend in that, and approaching solving a defending your base problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the base planning video, I did a Screeps Warfare Championship video because I wanted people to see just how cool Screeps Warfare Championship is. Stuff like that.
Cool. Did you ever make videos on other topics, or have you always made videos on Screeps?
Yeah. So in high school, early high school, I also worked on some machine learning stuff. Very simple, like genetic algorithms
Mm-hmm.
with neural networks, no backpropagation or anything. And so I think there's one or two videos about that. Maybe some of them are unlisted as well.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, I've gone on to do a similar thing, just more advanced with backpropagation and other more advanced machine learning stuff in my side time on my personal projects. So I have not made any videos on those. I've actually thought a few times of adding those, but yeah, it's hard. Every single time you have a video project in mind, it's always, do I make the video project or do I make something more interesting with that time, right? Because it does take maybe 10 hours to make a decent video, editing, getting the footage, planning it out, versus 10 hours you could put towards a project that you personally enjoy a lot and could get a lot of information and knowledge and learning out of.
So, you mentioned you've been away from Screeps World for about 2 years now. With the new updates planned, are you planning on coming back at all?
I don't know. I'll have to wait until there's something substantial. The power creeps are interesting to me. The two additional power creeps. I think it's the commander and the other name.
Executor.
They are the what, sorry?
The Executor is the other one.
Executor. Cool. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're going to be fun enough to bring me back. The warp containers also seem cool. Some balance changes. So if I do come back, it'll be in a bot arena or Screeps Warfare Championship with something that I think actually contends with the competitors.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been dabbling in Screeps Arena. I'm currently going to be broadcasting hosting rather, the broadcast on February 9th through 15th. So we're going to show Spawn Strike, Construct and Control, and the third one that I forgot the name of. So that's going to be really fun. And I've been dabbling in Construct and Control, and I've enjoyed that a lot. So Screeps Arena has been quite fun.
Cool. Well, that's definitely something to look forward to. Do you have any plans for further international development at all, or is that just like, Screeps World, keeping away from it for now?
It's hard to say. I do TypeScript at work, and so I like to dabble in other languages. So I've been doing a bit of C++ and largely Rust for my machine learning projects. And I've dabbled in a Rust, the International. So there's a private version, I believe, and there's another one I worked on with another member of the Screeps community, A Squared.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been interesting, but I also don't think Rust is a suitable language for Screeps. And so if I want to dabble in...
That's going to start a war.
If I want to dabble in the realm that Screeps kind of occupies in my brain of like enjoyment, I find there's other ways to spend that time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, I think that's about it. Thank you very much for coming. And in case you missed it, Marvin is going to be hosting like a live stream event for the finals of season 1 of Screeps Arena. So be sure to catch that. I'll make sure I put a link to his YouTube channel, some of his interesting videos, and the International bot in the description. And thank you very much again, Marvin, for coming. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.